I and Rohini actually have a interesting connect. I went to engineering school in Hyderabad, Usmania University. And at that time in my class, we had like 7 women. And, it was just the first time I was in such an environment because until then, I was in a all-girls school. And I went from a girl who was confident about everything to unsure about anything, whether I can speak up or not. But Rohini also went to the same engineering college a few years later, right? And so there is that connection we have. And Keshav talked about geek girls, and I actually take pride in being an engineer. In fact, I believe to do my job that I do today, my background as an engineer has been helpful. My background as an entrepreneur has been helpful. But, the conversation with Rohini, I don't think I could have followed, I feel, the path I followed to be an entrepreneur and a venture capitalist was a bit easier than trying to follow the tech management path that you have navigated so successfully. So we somewhat had similar beginnings of starting as engineers, but we have taken very different paths. So what was your inspiration, and when did you know you really wanted to reach that ladder in the tech management space?
So it's a great honor, first of all, Vani. I've really idolized you as somebody with the same alma mater. Look, I think engineering, tech was always that something that gave me goosebumps. My dad is a retired army officer. He's an engineer. And we always had something in the house that had been dismantled and was being improved in some way. So I just grew up with that touch and feel engineering sense. And even during Osmania days, he would push me, go to BHL R&D, go see how transformers are really made, go see, factories here, go to simulators, etc. So I was always out there. So I think it just always felt like my place. But coming to the journey that I have followed, I think what I have learned is that it's not enough to know tech. You have to know how it is creating value, how others are seeing it, how it is part of an ecosystem. And so I took, while I did start my career in the R&D world, so I did my PhD in computer engineering, and I began my career and a very, very, one of those elite places like AT&T Bell Labs in those days. But I could see that I could create the best of solutions, best of things, but if people don't know what it is, why should they care, then it's as good as paper. So I took a very big career shift and went to the dark side, as my R&D friends would call it, and go into and do business. So Neha and I share that alma mater. It was a hard move, but I think what has come together in my almost decade of working in a very business and strategy world is my ability to connect the dots, is my ability to talk the board level language, the language of every CXO outside of the CIO and CTO's office, and be able to show them why they need tech, why tech can create value from them. So that's kind of been the journey of a CTO. In fact, I was called to be a CTO by a former BCG colleague who said, this company wants a CTO, but a CTO who can understand business, which is what has been. So I think it's been a learning journey for me to be hardcore tech, be able to call certain areas that I am pretty much an expert at, but yet be able to connect dots with different parts of the business so that I can be relevant.
We were in a world where there were very few engineers to begin with, and that is now better because there are more women entering into engineering school. While there are probably fewer women founders and venture capitalists, there are even fewer CTOs who reach your level. So what does it take? How do you find your mentors? How do you find your sponsors to kind of get to where you need to get to? And how do you have a rule book on how you handle the disparity and I'm going to use the word discrimination, that you will experience in some form or the other at some time or the other?
So look, at the end of the day, whether it is men, women, any gender, at the end of the day, every leader and every organization is looking for people who deliver value. So when you talk the language, as I was earlier also commenting, when you talk the language of what is the business value, I was asked a question, what do you like to wear in a boardroom? I said, I don't particularly care what I wear in the boardroom. What I do care is what I bring to the table. So when I'm talking value, and I'm talking very clearly, what is it that I am delivering, why should you care, then people become sponsors. And I've had sponsors across my career between men and women, formally or informally. I've looked up to people, I've looked up to you, to, one, be very unabashed about what I'm trying to do, raise my voice. You have to let people know what you know. They will not know by themselves. They will not know that you have a sense, and I'll give you an example. Last year, when we were having our fiscal year start at Microsoft, somebody in the room asked me, what will be the technology that will be the next break technology? This was before ChatGPT. And everybody was talking about metaverse and all those. And I said, okay, I've been around a long time. It is going to be AI. But I did a play on words. I said it's going to be augmented intelligence, which is what LLMs are. Then it's going to be ambient intelligence. So what I'm trying to say is, when you have a point of view and you understand your domain, get your voice out. You have to get your voice out. It's distinctive. Sometimes you may not be speaking the language of the crowd, but get your voice out. And I think that is seen by people. That's then people see that over a period of time, that you walk the talk. You're not afraid to call a spade a spade. You have depth to what you are saying. You have intuitions, and that builds on itself.
So, Rohini, I want to double click on this, because get your voice out and the semantics of how you get your voice out is relevant in every area. In fact, people ask me, why do women get lesser funding? And I think there is a question of language, right? And I know that as an engineer, when I first started out pitching my product, I was pitching product and features, not value and outcomes from the investor perspective. And it took me about 100 pitches and, coming home in frustration to learn it the hard way, because nothing had created the framework and the education for me to take product and translate that into what investors look for, right? And I see that repeated in our IC, which is investment committee, time and again, somebody is so lost in the problem and the product that they don't come up to talk about why we should fund them and so on and so forth, right? And how big can this be, anyway. So similarly, in every field, right? So, but how do you bridge that gap? Sometimes you're not aware that you're not actually connecting, and at other times, you don't know how to translate what you're saying into their world, and inevitably, they're not going to come into your world. And it sounds like even in technology, if you have to get the budget, you just came back from meeting Satya, and 24-hour turnaround she did, so she could be here with us. I really appreciate that love and support.
Thank you.
Okay. But how did you do that journey?
See, I think one, and of course there's no right answer, but it's important to realize that everyone, however senior they are human beings. And they have feelings. They have their insecurities, if I may call it that. I think the ability to ask questions, the ability to ask open-ended questions with genuine curiosity is a superpower. Because sometimes we feel we need to have all the answers, and we actually don't. Even a conversation with a CXO, with a board member, if you're able to ask really simple questions about, not kind of cookie-cutter questions, what keeps you up at night, but real questions, then you are creating that door for having a conversation. Nobody has all the answers. So I think to me, that is one, just realizing everybody is a human being. They are trying to get their job done, their problem solved, and be able to have an empathetic conversation with curiosity. I think is a superpower, probably less leveraged than it could be.
And is that learned? Is that, innate to people?
I think it's look, leadership in any form, and I think this is a leadership behavior, being able to ask questions with curiosity and humility. It's a learned behavior. Because early on in our careers, we kind of subconsciously feel like we need to show how smart we are, and we need to have all the answers, and we can continue in that journey, but leaders understand they don't have all the answers, so they learn how to ask questions. And if you can do that, I think it's a learned behavior. I think it's also an ability to empower your people. I remember one of the microfinance companies I was CTO for, and I asked one of my team members, teach me core banking like 101. Just sit with me in the room and just teach me core banking. Like, I really don't know this. It did two things. One, it made her feel so empowered. It just was such a moment, right? Second, I got to learn. And most importantly, I made her empowered, that it's okay to ask questions if you don't have all the answers. So I think it's a learned behavior. But like I said, it's a superpower if you can leverage it.
If you can leverage it. That's great. And, I'm going to shift gears for a moment. You are, of course, in the middle of what is going to be transformative in one form or the other to all our lives. There comes technologies and platforms that create generational shifts. And so, two-part, what is India's opportunity in AI and innovation? And secondly, some form of our job is going to be transformed or displaced in some time, inevitably, for every one of us, right? So how do you prepare for that?
So I think both questions are somewhat related, but I'll still come to them separately. Look, few things, India, if you look at mega trends, one is the whole digital acceleration and exponential work that's happening in India. That's making India a very data-rich country. So if you think about AI, AI works on data. So I think the ability to work with things like the India Stack, the digital public goods infrastructure that I'm sure you're following, ability to make them work with AI for India in a way that creates inclusion and equity is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'll give you an example. When Satya was here in January, we showed him a demo of, and just ChatGPT had happened a few weeks back. We showed him a demo of using the OpenAI model that is behind ChatGPT, training it on PM Kisan Yojana's corpus, which means the model now understands what PM Kisan Yojana is, and overlaying it with Bhashini, which is the language models for India, and having I don't want to get too techie here, but having a WhatsApp-based chatbot. What suddenly that does is that a farmer sitting in Orissa can speak in his or her natural language and ask what that person is eligible for as far as agricultural loans and various facilities that the government offers. It happened so quickly after the ChatGPT moment that Satya called it his mic drop moment and went about talking about it at the World Economic Forum at all different parts of the world. I'm giving an example of something that completely changes the nature of the game of access to resources. What is PM Kisan Yojana? The Prime Minister is doing all this, but the farmer doesn't know about it. What is this doing? It is creating the ability for this farmer to access that information in natural language, potentially in speech, not even writing. So the person doesn't even have to be literate. That's a huge shift. Now transfer that to every sector, healthcare, education. It is game-changing. That brings to the other point about career and jobs. I'll just leave one thought. I think each one of us will have to think about our jobs as goals, outcomes, and not tasks. Let me explain that. When we start to do, let's say, a presentation for a pitch before Kalaari Capital, for example, you have a business idea in mind, you have something in mind that creates value for your customers, and you want to pitch it. You really don't care how that color on your PowerPoint looks like. You really don't care if it's a perfect circle or not. So, if technology can allow you to focus on the outcome, on your pitch, on what you're trying to convey, and reduce the burden of the tasks that you need to get your pitch out, that's the North Star you need to think about. And that's what's going to happen. That's what's happening. If you're looking at co-pilots, if you're looking at augmented intelligence, the way this technology is changing the nature of work, we all will have to think about outcomes, not tasks. And the last thing I would say is, look, previous large technology changes, there have always been jobs that got created that never existed. There have always been jobs that went away. There have always, with this technology, there will be jobs that we cannot even conceive of today.
One last question. How could you and I, two girls going to Usmania in Hyderabad, ever have conceived being here on this stage, right? But what it allows you these years is ability to look back and reflect. And when you do that, what's your advice to all the young women here?
Absolutely, it feels such a dream. I have to pinch myself.
Feels a little surreal,
It
right?
really,
so that we are sitting here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Look, I think dream big, aim high. You will have naysayers. Your own heart will sometimes say that, who do you think you are? It's okay. Keep going. Keep going. Events like this are amazing. I myself am feeling so inspired, so energized to be in front of all of you. But keep going. You have to walk the long path for everybody else who's watching you. You have to do it for everybody else who's watching you.
Thank you so much, Rohini.
Thank you.